start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special presentation we are calling Overcoming Enterprise Messaging Limitations with AI. I'm Jim Recker, VP of Sales for Tweelin. We're thrilled to have you all join us today, what promises to be an insightful session. Whether you're here to expand your knowledge or gain practical insights, we aim to provide valuable content and foster meaningful discussions. So throughout this webinar, we encourage you to be actively a participant and ask questions at any time. And don't hesitate to use the Q&A feature to engage our speaker and fellow attendees. So let's embark on this journey of discovery together. I'll now hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Dario DeSantis, CEO and founder of Tweelin, to dive into the topic of enterprise messaging. Dario, over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. It's such a joy having you all here and share with you some learnings. Today, we will talk about enterprise messaging. But first, let me introduce myself quickly. Now, why am I qualified to share some wisdom with you today? I have 20 years of work experience, 16 of which in product management roles focused on AI, IoT, and above all, collaboration. I spent 7 years at Cisco working on WebEx products, from intelligent devices featuring AI capabilities to leading the strategic integrations product team. In 2021, I co-founded Tweelin, and with my team, we built the first and still only digital serendipity solution for enterprise collaboration currently on the market. Now, we're done with the intros. Let's delve into the topic for today. And let's start by addressing the obvious for many of us who work in collaboration. Nowadays, instant messaging is in every single company. It may take the form of a single official app or multiple messaging tools allowed by the organization, especially when collaborating with external companies that may use different messaging solution than your own company. Now, we found some official usage data to qualitatively plot the adoption trends for messaging. I say qualitatively because the active usage of Slack and WhatsApp Business were only available for a couple of years, and not the same years. Nevertheless, for the leader, which, no surprise, is Microsoft Teams, data points are available for each year, although not exactly sampled on the same month every year. Now, according to Microsoft's report for Q1 fiscal 24, the number of active users of Teams is now 320 million. It's a huge leap from 20 million active users just 5 years ago. In this webinar, we will offer our unique point of view on the reasons behind this huge success, and then we will assess the current limitations of enterprise messaging, and we'll end the webinar by suggesting how the latest AI development can and will overcome many of the current asynchronous communication challenges in large enterprises. First, let's agree on where we are as a society. Please look at this chart qualitatively. Okay, we are comparing apples to oranges to make a point, which wouldn't be clear if we used actual data. The fact in front of our eyes is that we use calling less and less, especially during the workday when we are all busy, and especially when we communicate with our own colleagues, so internal communications. While messaging became, by now, the primary communication channel for the majority of the organizations, pretty much anywhere in the world. Would you agree with the statement? Great. If not, please comment in the chat, send us, a Q&A, and we'll address the discussion later. We know from several reports, as I said, that calling has a success rate which is really low. from 12 to 20%, depending on who you ask to. And hybrid workers today are wasting an aggregated amount of 260 million hours hunting down people they need to talk to. This is an opportunity cost which is enormous for our society. It's quantified as $3.2 billion with the B a day. And in medium to large organization, the absurdity is that 7 out of 8 conversations are even internal. So why is it so hard to talk to your colleagues? We will talk about it in a future webinar, so be on the lookout for an invitation, right? So we'll talk about that specific, answer that specific question. But what matters today is it is quite natural that when live conversations are so hard to achieve, messaging becomes the only viable way to communicate during the busy work hours. And it almost looks like in the past 20 years or so, our society progressively shifted the productivity focus from team to individual. Now, 25 years ago, I could call you on your phone and you would drop anything not to miss the opportunity to talk and perhaps show off your brand new Motorola flip phone. That was really cool. Now, phone calls were almost always more important than the activities people were doing when they received that call. At that time, there weren't many conference calls, but the collective decisions, especially for among few people, were fast and efficient. The workflows were efficient. While unfortunately, personal productivity was impacted negatively by those frequent random interruptions and the phone ringing everywhere that disrupted the focus. Today, instead, calling someone in an unplanned fashion is considered a privacy violation. And people are afraid to bother the receiver of their phone call, so they don't call. It almost looks like our Western individualistic society has higher priority than that the individuals in this particular society have higher priority in terms of productivity than the team. And these few hours of precious focus time that individuals have should not be disrupted. So communications with other people can wait and are very suitable for asynchronous communication channel, hence the messaging success. And this concept seems to apply to small organizations without many objection. It works. Messaging works. In a simple hypothetical example, we have a tiny business with 5 cohesive people who talk to each other in one-to-one channels and in a manageable number of collective channels with more than 2 people. Well, the maximum number of possible one-to-one channels here is 10. And the specific thematic channels with more than 2 people are just a handful. You may have a certain products with certain capabilities, a sense of functions involved. You may create a chat room for each function or each product piece, but no more than that. And in this scenario, messaging is productive and it's easy to keep track of things and being up to speed with everything that is going on at any level of your small organization. Now, unfortunately, the situation gets complicated quickly with scale. You have many more people, each one with very limited time to bond with others, and now clusters form. You might be tempted to say, well, a large organization is made of a collection of cohesive teams whose members work very well together thanks to asynchronous communication. Well, not so fast. While it is true that local cohesive teams can work well together via messaging to understand the impact of instant messaging on the collective decision making, we must consider the topology that internal communications almost always follow. Emerging topology, which is almost always a small world, which is an old concept. It simply means these cohesive lands are connected usually by a few bridge individuals. Now, who are these bridge individuals? Now, we said that the people have limited resources and can only have and nurture a limited amount of relationships with other people. And some people have central roles within a specialized cohesive team. Often these people are subject matter expert, and people need them to validate or make technical decisions. Now, when someone has a central role within a cluster, we say that that person has a high degree centrality, which corresponds to influence or power within that specific cohesive group. Then you have some other people that have higher rank roles that bridge multiple worlds that wouldn't communicate with each other otherwise. And in this category, you can find people from executives to product, project, program managers. And most of the time, you need these people to make collective decisions. And we say that these people have high betweenness centrality, which corresponds also to influence power. And please keep in mind that people may have both a high degree and betweenness centrality at the same time. So why do we consider centrality? Well, because central people are the bottlenecks that break the messaging paradigm in large organizations. These people are decision makers or top influencers. They have been at the company for longer. They are higher in the ranks and more likely spend a substantial amount of time with customers and partners that usually have higher priority than internal processes. Therefore, central people are overwhelmed with unread messages because people need them to move the needle on projects or programs. So, personal experience, when I was a product leader at a large tech giant, at any given time, I had 100 plus unread channels, several of them with people begging for my attention to move the needle. However, managing all those channels would have been a full-time job. And I had to constantly let things slip through the cracks by choice. And I needed to do that because I needed to perform the tasks I was paid for. Another example, also at a previous job in a large organization, there was this phenomenal senior director who had to approve the release of a piece of software that was time sensitive for a certain large customer. And the approval by design had to happen in a team channel. So it would have been faster and more nimble. But it didn't happen for almost a week following the request. Hey, can you approve this? Because simply the request, the unread channel, fell through the cracks of that boss. So I like to say that there is a time frame when, where I can pick up some messages. I call it a time to oblivion, right? It's It's a time frame within which a certain message stays on the visible part of your unread channels. Then more incoming messages, bubble up, and new channels become unread and push down those messages down the stack until they get out of the visible area, and then they are often lost. So what happens when a decision is urgent and the message falls below the central person's line of oblivion? Now, colleagues, at that point, a colleague needs a decision fast, so makes a phone call. But the boss doesn't answer because calling doesn't work. We already know it. The boss is either in focus mode or in a meeting. So the next step is sending a meeting invitation, often for the following day around lunchtime, marked as urgent. Now, the central person has a choice. You can be rude and say no, reserving your schedule as is, or accepting the meeting since it involves the customer, and as a consequence, move around the internal meetings the new invitation conflicts with. My previous role, I sadly experienced this phenomenon almost every day. For example, I wouldn't read messages on time. They fell through the cracks, they went out of the visible area. Salespeople needed me, so they would schedule a meeting out of the blue that pops up in the calendar to discuss something urgent for a customer deal, putting pressure on me to rearrange my calendar and often work overtime to catch up on things, because now I'm spreading conflicts among available time or eating into focus time I previously blocked, and that focus time that I'm now converting into a meeting pushes me to work overtime. Now we know there is great collaboration value that's created by enterprise chat for cohesive teams. But how can we unlock faster decision making at an organizational level when it requires bosses bridging multiple cohesive teams? Now, we believe at Tweelin that the key is improving the reachability of central people without generating sludge for them in terms of additional coordination costs, or like having like having to move meetings around. So we are in the middle of a generative AI hype, but in this case, large language models really don't help. They are amazing at making sense of things and situations, but not for executing workflows. A different AI is needed in that case, an AI that can unlock a new paradigm, a new interaction style that promotes new, more efficient ways of working. And while I'm sure the opportunities in this particular fields of workflow enhancement are endless, I would like to share with you what we at Tweelin see as the ideal interaction style. Now, what would be the best experience in the ideal world if you had the magic wand? Well, you think that you need to talk to a certain person, and that happens magically at the earliest convenience for both. Simple as that. Or it happens next week, or in 3 weeks, or whenever you want to. In this case, the AI would act as the magician figuring out the right moment for both people to talk without any effort apart from thinking about it. So the good news is we built that magician AI to implement our vision, minus the thinking part, until Elon comes with a working version of Neuralink. Now, Tweelin allows you to make wishes to talk to people, okay? And then you need to explicitly make a wish. You don't not think about it. And then based on all your devices' telemetry and calendar availability for both people, it figures out the right moment and the right channel for a conversation. Now, the right channel is determined by looking at the capabilities of both users' currently active devices. If the devices can talk to each other, today via Teams, a regular call, or a WhatsApp call, and other channels in the future, then the connection can happen. Let me emphasize the fact that all of that happens without touching the calendar whatsoever. The whole purpose is removing events which generate friction, come with a coordination cost, delayed decisions, and push people to work overtime on the tasks that matter. Now, we built Tweelin to be the intelligent layer that orchestrates various enterprise collaboration systems based on the user intent. And currently we have 5 apps published: Microsoft Teams, Android, iOS, and 2 very lightweight telemetry agents for Windows and Mac that bring your computer into the Tweelin ecosystem so that more telemetry is considered and the right moment becomes more accurate. Now, let me anticipate a few recurrent questions, giving you a few recurrent answers. One is our solution is fully baked to support internal communications today, and we have plans to extend it towards partners and external entities as well. You got to be a little more patient if that's your use case. Number 2, Tweelin shows up in the Azure portal as a trusted partner app, and it takes 30 to 45 minutes to set up a pilot project. As a matter of fact, you can do it right now if you're an admin. Answer number 3, we are designed for enterprise. We don't collect the telemetry history. We're not able to monitor people's activities over time. Our solution relies only on updated telemetry snapshots in the moment. We are GDPR compliant in EU and UK, and we are in the middle of the certification process for both ISO 27001 and SOC 2. There's actually another answer that is usually recurrent, is how accurate is it? It's as accurate as it gets at our early stage. We're a fairly recent company. We have 88% conversation success rate, as opposed to 20% or less of any impromptu call, which means now the chances you're going to talk to someone are fairly high without scheduling, and you don't need to do that. Now, should you be interested in learning more about Tweelin, please visit our website, tweelin.com, where you can find some useful resources like our value calculator, which will give you an idea on how much monetary efficiency your company would be able to achieve by removing internal scheduling. And we're currently offering 30-day free pilots, but we consider pilots up to 90 days for more complex, change-averse organizations. And I like to keep these webinars short and quick and short, and leave room for debate. So thank you so much for your precious time and attention. And I'm always available via email should you need anything from me. Now, I hand you over to Jim to see if we have any questions from the audience.
I was going to say, are you also available via Tweelin?
I am available via Tweelin. Actually, I had to start giving my phone number, and because now externally works, if you have a mobile app and you use your phone number, now you are able to make wishes to your contacts who are also Twilin users. By the way, it also works if you're not a Twilin user. But it's a different thing. Similar to Calendly, but instead of scheduling, you just give availability for an impromptu conversation in certain time frames. Now, it's everything on our website if you want to go and look at that. And by the way, we're also going to schedule a webinar where we'll delve deeper into our solution and explain how the ecosystem works.
So we did get a couple questions here. The first question is how long have you supported Microsoft Teams or been integrated with Microsoft Teams? I'm assuming that's the question.
Yeah, so we started integrating Microsoft Teams more than a year ago, and it is officially fully baked and ready for prime time. It's actually being used today by a few companies. In last February was officially delivered, and it's fully completely stable, etc. We had a little bit of challenges during the latest migration of
Microsoft Teams?
Microsoft Teams to the new Teams, but it wasn't only challenging for us. It seems to be many other companies had some hiccups in the process. But we are absolutely ready. It's being used. It's great. We have the ability to drive adoption in autopilot with a system of not very invasive nudging of the end users. And we also have the capability of transforming existing meetings into impromptu conversations. So we look at the calendar. If there's a meeting with someone in your organization, a one-to-one meeting that we can accelerate, we will do that. And we suggest the host of the meeting, hey, you got this meeting mid next week for 30 minutes with this person, but would you like to talk earlier? Make it a wish. Now, if you're able to talk, you can remove that meeting. Now, one less constraint in everyone's calendar, more ability to focus during the day. And if you don't get to talk to that person, you always have your um, meeting as a fallback plan, and you will be able to talk at that time.
Question around wishes. Are the wishes always one-to-one or can they be one-to-X?
For now, they are one-to-one. It's our focus. Now, our philosophy is first remove 37% of the existing meetings that are one-to-one in any organization. Once we remove that, you have more than a third of your calendar free now, more free. You have more wiggle room to accommodate more people in an impromptu fashion. So one of our expansion directions is involving creating wishes with more and more people over time. But for now, we are one-to-one. So will be more people and will be across organizations. But for now, our main value is streamlining internal communications, remove one-to-one meetings, make it much easier to make decisions within your own organization, especially if it's large and cumbersome, and deliver a lot of value that way.
Perfect. I got one question here that I thought was very interesting, which is around the value prop of phone calls. Are phone calls now only for urgent communications? I think that's what the attendee was understanding you saying.
Well, phone calls are not really only for urgent communications, right? It's also the best way to provide a better customer experience to your customers and end users. In the end, contact center and all these omni-channel trends that you see in the customer support markets, it's all about escalating to a live call, which is very expensive, by the way, but it's the best possible experience you can give to an end user. And it's the fastest way you're able to sort out issues or drive a decision, a purchase decision of your end customer that is asking you for help in understanding your own product offering. So calling is a better experience anyway. Now, should you use it for urgent communications only? Not necessarily, but if you focus on urgent communications, especially internally within your organization, now you have the chance to accelerate decisions because of how hard it is to get a hold of someone. How long does it take to send an email to explain a certain specific situation that requires the intervention of an executive, and you may spend an hour and a half outlining everything, specifying everything, and then you send that email, and perhaps after 2 days you receive a response. Wouldn't it be faster to get on a call and spend 5 to 10 minutes with that executive at everyone's earliest convenience? It's overall more efficient and less time is wasted. And if it comes with no coordination cost through a solution like digital serendipity or whatever other solution other people will come up with, then it's even better.
We're a little bit over time now, but I'll throw in one question because it's kind of
Yes.
aligned with this, and that is are there any best practices to help young generations of workers appreciate the value of a phone call versus messaging, of course?
Well, I would say phone calls don't come with emojis and a lot of that beautiful, a lot of that aura that Snapchat may have. But I'm sure that as soon as they're going to encounter their first professional problem, they'll make that phone call and they will feel so much better after that. So the call button, fortunately enough, is on any chat tool nowadays anyway. And it's easy to escalate to a phone call. The problem is when one or both parties are very busy, that that becomes really ineffective.
Because the phone call is really one-on-one versus you could be messaging 10 people simultaneously. I'm just trying to
Right.
joking there.
Hey, I'm seeing another question that we haven't answered. I've opened the Q&A in the meantime. We have the how hard is installation in a Teams environment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I say a few words on that,
Sure.
if you don't mind? It's fairly easy. It takes 35, 40 minutes. What you do is you go on Azure, you search for Tweelin. It comes up as a trusted app within Azure. You can deploy it for everyone, editing your global policy or creating a new global policy for everyone. Or you can select a certain amount of people and deploy only for those people. Those people will have the app installed automatically. You can pin the app in the navigation bar if you want. They will receive a welcome question, and they will receive a welcome card that will explain them how to use Tweelin. They will receive some nudges for 6 work days after installation that explain them everything about the solution, how to configure your calendar, how to manage your wishes, how to make wishes, respond wishes, how to snooze a wish that you want to procrastinate, reschedule for later, or stuff like that. It's going to be all explained automatically in a sequence of bits of information that we deliver directly to the end user. So it's fairly low touch. Once you create your org, you start your loose countdown for your pilot. And after 30 days or so, we will contact you and you will receive a report of usage in your organization. And then we'll talk. If you like it, we'll discuss a wider adoption option.
Great. That looks like we have all the questions today answered. I want to remind you all that if you think of any other questions, you can, of course, reach out to us at tweelin.com. And in the future, of course, Dario will post his phone number so that you can make wishes to him live.
That is great. Again,
Thank you all for attending.
it's a great pleasure. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks, Dario.